I have to admit, I didn't really want to talk about this, not because I have nothing to add to the discussion, but simply because these situations always bring out the worst in people, and it grows old watching these topics being used by people from all different walks of life to justify their biases. I've talked about people using tragedy to push their agendas in a past video, which I will link in the description below. I honestly find myself extremely frustrated at the state of society and the attitudes people hold against each other, but I'm clearly in no position to really change it, so throwing my ideas out into the ether is pretty much all I can do. Now, you may have noticed that I used the hashtag BLM kidnapping to label this video, but I want to make it clear that I used this title because this is the tag people are using to discuss this topic. It's merely a way for people involved in the discussion to see the video. I do not endorse the idea that this was done in the name of Black Lives Matter. At the time of this recording, there just isn't enough information available to make that determination. I will say it's entirely possible, though, that some of the ideas certain activists that affiliate with that movement have put out there may have helped breed the attitudes presented by these individuals, but we'll get into that as we go along. Four black individuals kidnapped and basically tortured a mentally handicapped white guy, and for some crazy reason decided it would be a good idea to live stream it on Facebook. For me personally, race is not a factor when it comes to an innocent person being hurt. You do the crime, you take the punishment no matter who you are. The reason I'm basically forced to mention it here is because of the nature of the case itself. You see, the perpetrators decided it would be a good idea to scream "fuck Donald Trump" and "fuck white people" while committing these acts, which undeniably puts a racial spin on the situation. It goes without saying that the crime these individuals committed was reprehensible. They are human garbage, and there was no excuse for their behavior. However, I think there are many different factors that go into creating an environment in which these situations become more commonplace. This election was one of the worst offenders, as the media pushed a narrative that anyone who voted for a particular candidate was just a racist, sexist, homophobic bigot that hated anyone who isn't straight and white. People ate this up to the point that we've seen other instances of people being verbally harassed and physically attacked for their political views. Now, of course, this isn't a first, but it's certainly one of the worst times I remember seeing. Tensions in regards to race and identity are at an all-time high. One of the biggest reasons for this seems to be resentment. For a long time now, it's been socially acceptable to act as though the only people capable of racism and a vast array of other isms are straight white people, and this is simply not the case as demonstrated by reality. Yes, the US may have a dark history when it comes to the treatment of blacks, but it's as though people forget that slavery ended and the civil rights movement occurred. Obviously, I don't believe that those events fixed all of the problems, but it's about as much of a step forward as one can expect in a multicultural/ethnic society. As long as people who are different from each other live together, there will be people who find reasons to hate each other based on those differences. This has been true of humanity for thousands of years. What I find to be bothersome here is that media outlets still haven't learned, and the police themselves have been hesitant to label this as a hate crime. I won't pretend to know the inner workings of the politics of the police force of Chicago that may have come into play in making this determination. I've got no experience with it and live nowhere near the city. Regardless of their reasoning, though, I think this is a very bad idea. I almost hate to present the idea this way, but if the roles were reversed, this would undoubtedly be called a hate crime. One of the officers at a conference even went as far to say that it could just be stupid ranting. And that just blows my mind because no one else would be excused in that way. They claim the victim was targeted because he has special needs and not for his race. To that I say, why not both? They found someone who was white that they could easily overpower and took it out on him. It doesn't take Sherlock Holmes to figure this one out. The evidence is right there on video, so it's about as clear cut as it comes. Usually the attitude is fuck the police, and now all of a sudden it's trust the police because they're not labeling the situation as a hate crime. Now it's possible that they still may come out and call this a hate crime, but as of this time they have not done that. I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not going to sit here and pretend I understand all of the nuances of the law, but my simplistic opinion is this: hate crimes shouldn't exist. Violent crimes are always motivated by anger and or hatred, and anyone can be harmed by another person for who or what they are. So if you're not going to apply this standard to all people regardless of their identity or the identity of the perpetrator, it's best not to have it at all. Maybe at one time in the past it was necessary, but anyone is capable of committing a crime on the basis of disliking them for what they are. You can call me ignorant, quite frankly, I do not care, but tacking on a heftier sentence just because of a difference in sexuality and or skin tone of the victim is foolish if the end result of the crime is the same. I really think society is in a bad spot here, and if we keep going down this road, it's only going to get worse. More and more, people are going to use these situations to justify their hatred, and you will only have yourselves to blame. By labeling all white people as racist and diluting the term of racism to be practically meaningless, you have hurt your own cause and set back the work of people who have faced actual oppression in their lifetime. I really hope you're proud of yourselves. When I first saw the video of the crime on YouTube before it was taken down, the comment section had some truly vile things in it, and I just want to address that for a moment. You know, for the people using this to disparage blacks as a whole, you are no better than these criminals and the activists that you speak out against that claim all whites are racist. In fact, all you're really doing is giving them more fodder to spread their narrative in the same way that you do when people like this go and do something horrible. You think you're so above media brainwashing, and yet you jump on the narratives pushed by those who speak to your mindset. You are duped into believing you're somehow superior for being born a different color. You and the people you claim to hate sit and wait like vultures to jump on any little thing you can to explain why X group is terrible, completely ignoring the fact that regardless of what group you affiliate yourself with, there are people who do awful things within. Racism is always going to exist in some capacity, but I think the best way to have as little as possible is to actually treat people as individuals, hold individuals accountable for their actions, and to the same standard as everyone else, regardless of who they are or what they look like. Perhaps this is an idealistic thought, but quite honestly, if society and the media stop pushing ideas of hive minds and community, then perhaps public opinion would sway more toward an individualistic mindset. I acknowledge that people will always find reasons to hate each other, but these double standards only create more feelings of resentment. Don't just speak out at injustices when it happens to someone that looks like you. Defending the innocent and making sure those who have done wrong pay for their crimes should be the ultimate goal here. Trying to sweep terrible acts under the rug because you're afraid it might breed more racism doesn't help. It's actually counterproductive and creates more racism than simply letting the truth come out. The double standards, the groupthink, it all has to go, or this is going to implode real fast. Thanks for watching. I'm the only one.